The Great Black Swamp was a glacially fed wetland in northwest Ohio and extreme northeast Indiana, United States, that existed from the end of the Wisconsin glaciation until the late 19th century, comprising extensive swamps and marshes, with some higher, drier ground interspersed. It occupied what was formerly the southwestern part of proglacial Lake Maumee, a holocene precursor to Lake Erie. The area was about 25 miles wide and 100 miles long, covering an estimated 1,500 square miles. Gradually drained and settled in the second half of the 19th century, it is now highly productive farmland. During the second half of the 20th century, efforts were undertaken to preserve and restore portions of the swamp to its pre-settlement state. Description: the land once covered by the swamp lies primarily within the Maumee River and Portage River watersheds in northwest Ohio and northeast Indiana. The boundary was determined primarily by ancient sandy beach ridges formed on the shores of Lakes Maumee and Whittlesey. After glacial retreat several thousand years ago, it stretched roughly from Fort Wayne, Indiana in the west, eastward to the Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge near Port Clinton along the Lake Erie shore, and from US 6 south to Findlay and North Star, Ohio, near its southern edge at the southwestern corner of present-day Auglaize County. The swamp was so impervious to travel that wheeled transportation was impossible during most of the year, and local residents thought the rigors of travel to be unsuitable for anyone except adult men. The vast swamp was a network of forests, wetlands, and grasslands. In the lowest, flattest areas, prone to permanent inundation, deciduous swamp forests predominated, characterized especially by species of ash, elm, cottonwood and sycamore. In slightly higher areas with some topographic relief and better drainage, beech maples, basswood, tulip tree and other more mesic species were dominant. On elevated beach ridges and moraines with good to excessive drainage, more xeric species, especially oak and hickory, were dominant. Unlike other swampy areas of the Great Lakes, such as northern Minnesota, there were no conifers. The area contained non-forested wetlands, particularly marsh and wet prairies, with marshes being particularly extensive along the Lake Erie shoreline east of Toledo, draining the swamp. Although much of the area to the east, south, and north was settled in the early 19th century, the dense habitat and difficulty of travel through the swamp delayed its development by several decades. A corduroy road was constructed through the Maumee Roadlands in 1825 and paved with gravel in 1838, but travel in the wet season could still take days or even weeks. The impassability of the swamp was an obstacle during the so-called Toledo War. Unable to get through the swamp, the Michigan and Ohio militias never came to battle. Settlement of the region was also inhibited by endemic malaria. The disease was a chronic problem for residents of the region until the area was drained and former mosquito breeding grounds were dried up. In the 1850s, the states began an organized attempt to drain the swamp for agricultural use and ease of travel. Various projects were undertaken over a 40-year period. Local resident James B. Hill, living in Bowling Green, Ohio, in the mid-19th century, made the quick drainage of the Black Swamp possible with his invention of the Buckeye traction ditcher. Hill's ditching machine laid drainage tiles at a record pace. The area was largely settled over the next 3 decades. The development of railroads and a local drainage tile industry are thought to have contributed greatly to drainage and settlement. Bibliography. Sampson, H.C. Succession in the Swamp Forest Formation in Northern Ohio. Ohio J. Science, 30-340-357. Karatz, M.R. The Black Swamp, A Study in Historical Geography. Annals of the Association of American Geographers. 45 1-35. DOI 10.1111 J 1467-8306.1955 TBO 1481X